Hello, everyone. Welcome to another panel here at FEBRABAN Tech. If you're here in purpose and or a person and or you're also online, we're going to be talking about BAAS, a concept which arose in 2010 and is globally seen as a paradigm shift, one of the most important ones of recent decades. In its essence, BAS allows banks to offer financial services integrated through APIs and cloud solutions. It sounds complicated, but in fact, the model met the demands of consumers for integrated experiences and helped the traditional brought together the traditional banks and IT companies. So BAAS has mobilized the whole ecosystem from the regulator, partner banks, service providers. It began in 2020, it's starting 2025 with the prospect of new legislation regulating its activity. For example, competition. And there are a number of questions that are probably in your forefront in your mind. So, for example, implementation of central bank regulations, expanding the offerings. How can companies stand out in the market? These are interesting questions. Let me call our guests to the stage. Benítez of BNP, Carlos Benítez.
Obrigada, Carlos. Pode escolher.
Thanks, Carlos. Sit where you like.
Felipe Marques,
Felipe Marcos,
BTG Pactual.
BTG Pactual.
Obrigada, Felipe.
Thank you, Felipe.
Guilherme Temes,
Guilherme Temes,
do Departamento de
who
Regulação
works for the Regulation Department of Central Bank, and Marcelo Schuckmann,
da SWAP.
Chief Product Officer of SWAP.
E Pedro Fortes, de
Pedro Fortes,
Corporativa IBA.
Corporate Strategy of Itaú Unibank.
Está formado o grupo.
That's good. Our group is formed. Now to the questions. Lots of questions to put to you. Thanks, everybody, for being here. It's a pleasure to be your main interlocutor. I have a lot to learn from you. As I said at opening, we understand that BAS is a great paradigm shift. In your view, taking stock over the last decades,
São os principais fatores
what are the main drivers of BAS?
transformando o setor financeiro.
And how is it changing the financial sector? Pedro. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can hear me. Yes.
Banking as a service.
The banking as a service began in 2010. I think the modality is older than that. For many years and decades, non-financial institutions practiced bank-like activities for practical reasons. The companies see that those who have data and context and customer relations, they allow them to earn money competing with financial services. This happened with a very scarce technology, but evolution over time, and the ecosystem for BAS today is highly sophisticated, and it's been enabled by technology. I think it's an older process, in fact, than the first companies who dominated BAS. And then in Brazil and the rest of the world, regulations are advancing to boost competition in the banking market and the finance market, allowing fintechs and startups to come in and overcome what used to be insurmountable barriers through cloud services and so on. In my vision, in our vision, BAS is linked to the evolution of the financial market as a whole and has helped create innovation, new technologies, and a very healthy competitive environment. It was an important paradigm shift. and it has contributed to more and more innovation and technology in Brazil and the world's banking sector. Felipe, hello, good afternoon. I'm really pleased to be here with you this afternoon. It's undeniable that this is where we have a tailwind, which was the increase in liquidity. This is a moment where there are a lot of people investing to build fintechs and startups, many taking advantage to use the embedded finance model. And this moment came along with digitization, banking digitization. If this acceleration had not happened, it would have been impossible without the accompaniment of applications, apps, API first, cloud first, etc. It was a perfect storm which allowed all of this potential to be realized. It's been leveraged in recent years. That's my answer first off. Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Many old friends here, some new friends too. To answer the question, it's nice to be third because I can piggyback on some input from the first two answerers. Brazil is in the avant-garde, really, or is in the vanguard since about 1968. For example, Casas Bahia, banking as a service existed. Remember the co-branded cards? So we now have an English name, sounds more marketable, even for VCs, BAS. But it's a consolidation that our generation needed. We've been talking about the zeitgeist of each generation, and in our generation, the companies of our generation, the zeitgeist is this need to have a very quick go-to-market, a quick connection to technology, to focus on business, and have someone working on the bits and bytes behind that. This consolidation has transformed BAS to what it is today, and the effect also is to produce some niches that consolidated banking as a service companies and also other companies at the coalface offering financial services like embedded finance, and they are able to scatter widely and meet the needs of a whole agenda. So Brazil's a leading country in these. The central bank is going to have to tell us a bit more in terms of innovation and competition, our next directions. We have grown, and the moment is really rich. Carlos. Everyone's mentioned a lot of things. There's not much left for me. So I'm going to look forward because Guilherme was talking about the regulator. I always saw banking as a service. I'm not a fan of English terminology talking about the market. I always think of it as the car maker's bank. It's like an assembly line, and this promotes a business unit in a certain industry or economic group or segment, and you fit into that ecosystem where there is this economic group. You embed products and services, goods and services. So you therefore have efficiency and cost reduction. Banking as a service, that's what it's about. It means that the bank is led to distribute their products in a range of different layers at a branch, on an app, and among partners, and directly talking to a group and distribute their products to the group. So it's the opposite vision of what banks are building today. So from the front door in, they're now building to go out and sell. Banking as a service creates a structure so that the other will sell, and the bank then manages and organizes the process and uses all the information, such as data gathering and all other possibilities like customer clusters, to better sell the products and experiences. the bank is no longer the leading actor, but is actually the stage on which other actors will parade. Nice analogy, thank you. Guilherme?
Como você vai engatar na segunda pergunta?
I don't know how you're going to go with these answers. Well, first of all, good afternoon to everyone watching. Greetings to the panelists. Thank you, FEBRABAN, for the invitation. Speaking last, then, I just need to add a few things to what people said. I think my view is more regulatory with regard to BAS.
Essa questão de parceria.
There is the issue of partnership in the bank, and there are some non-finance companies that can render banking services through a partnership with the bank or other financial institutions.
Aí que vem
And that's why the bank is as a service. And you have a modular issue. These are supplementary services that are very granular, that can be provided without a banking license or permit from a regulatory point of view from the central bank. So those services, because you have a partnership with a financial institution behind the business, so that's actually a transformation.
uma questão muito similar.
And it's very similar to, it's not a new question
Proposta regulatória.
in terms of regulatory purposes. We have the acronym BAS. Perhaps we don't want to leave it as a term because it focuses on banks too much, but it's a similar model to the banking correspondents, which have been out there since the 60s and 70s, which are non-finance companies partnering in order to interface with the end customer. It's a transformation in the market. Ever since the payments market was opened by law, and also credits and fintechs, there have been a number of players out in the market, and many of them growing and using BAS as a competitive edge. Here at FEBRABAN, there are a number of fintechs, a number of names that are transforming the market, as well as traditional banks. Sorry, my microphone cut out.
É isso.
Maravilha, não cortaram você, tá?
You weren't cut. It was just a little. It was like the Oscar, wasn't it? My 1 minute was up. No, I can give you a bit more time, actually. Having taken stock, everyone, people have mentioned important things.
Uma evolução natural.
Talking about the natural evolution of digitization and computerization.
Essas pecinhas. Eu queria.
I would like to touch on the legal framework, 2025. The legal framework is just there on the horizon. What are the impacts it's going to be? Guilherme, could you give us a view of the status, ongoing status of the process? Well, thank you, Sylvia. The central bank put it to public consultation from late October last year to late February this year, the proposal to regulate BAS.
Por que o Banco Central é o primeiro?
Why did the central bank do that? Mainly so that we could encourage the market and carry out innovative transformations, innovation, new services and products for customers. That's been on our agenda. We've been wishing to encourage the market to do that. And there are also some risks to be mitigated. Transparency is one. Some aspects of transparency need to be improved. For example, consumers sometimes might be opening an account in a payment or a financial institution and sees the partner, let's say, on entering, and you need greater transparency for the market. So we need some aspects of transparency dealt with. PLD, fiscal issues. So we want to set up a minimum standard of governance and controls and procedures
Olha, esse aqui é padrão que todo mundo
so that it's a standard that everyone has to follow. That was the motivation of the central bank
essas falhas em
to correct these flaws.
regulação. A gente recebeu
What's the status now? We had 100 suggestions back from society.
as equipes envolve diversas
It's a complex matter,
analisando
and
questões, e a gente tem alguns aspectos
we had some
depois
aspects for
final aprimorada, né? Então,
to enhance. There are some systems which are key,
de transparência, como eu comentei, né? Qual que vai ser
and
o melhor jeito
what would be the best way that this standard could address the issue of transparency? Then there's the role of financial liquidation, or how can a company that's not authorized, it's how can they handle money, or if so, how specifically? So it's can they, and if they can, how? Issues of exclusiveness,
parceiros,
allowing a number of partners. So we need to be flexible, but we need to have a compromise solution. This environment is very complex. I would say that we're trying to improve it. That is why we want to come out with this regulation to encourage the market, but to maintain a minimum standard of security.
Dessas coisas todas.
essa é uma boa questão.
Do you have a time frame for this?
Não quer correr,
We're not in a hurry.
a gente
We don't want to rush it. We need to find a sweet spot
né, fazendo
in
para ficar
terms of the timing.
design social, o
We
papel
want to find the social design
trabalho
and an equilibrium.
cronograma aí talvez
So by the end of the year, we are working on a
a consulta
timetable. The public consultation fulfilled its role. We didn't only hear praise, we heard
de que a
constructive criticism. Institutions themselves also brought in suggestions and, as I say, constructive suggestions
regulamentação
so that the regulator can enhance the regulation. So it played its role.
até por isso que a gente além de
That's why, in addition to bringing a proposal of a standard, we have asked several questions to the market.
deve adotar
Which line the regulatory agency should take? That was the role of the public consultation.
Pedro e Felipe.
I'm going to ask for Pedro and Felipe
Duplas aqui, porque tem dupla de banco, dupla de.
in Paris
Eu queria ouvir
for fintechs.
como é que a regulamentação
How can regulation impact the strategies of base for each one of the institutions?
vocês têm pontos de
We
preocupação?
have points of concern, points of enthusiasm.
Que tipo de desafios
What kind of technological challenges can we see?
começar, Pedro?
Posso começar?
I can
Acho que
start.
primeiro é importante esclarecer
First of all, it's important to clarify that the public consultation is open. We are working with assumptions. The regulation hasn't been analyzed. The public consultation is closed. All that can change when the rules are clear. Itaú Unibanco thought it was very important, the regulation and how the central bank worked, thinking about standards for banking as a service. It's critical for the operation and for the good operation of our market. So it was very welcome how the central bank worked. And so there were several understanding and opinion
nas consultas, no nosso caso aqui,
in the public consultation. In the case of Itaú through FEBRABAN, I'm not going to surprise Guilherme about nothing that was said before.
bem-vindo.
It's welcome, it's productive, it's important, it's for us. And I think there is a clear willingness to increase the risk safety, to raise the minimum bar We increase consistency and safe security standards for a market that creates more and more links. The difficulty of
da manutenção da
keeping a robust system is greater, so it's natural. The most
que a gente é
knots we have in the system,
bons olhos
we see that with good eyes,
concordar
and we agreed
da consulta.
with the public consultation. The elements that are not clear yet, and they will be clear, we understand there may be a concern if it's in a gray zone between the offering from one bank on how they operate, offering products and services
Através dos nossos canais
through our proprietary channels
como
compared to a technology provider,
regulatório.
a regulatory and financial, because we think they're very different in a model of distribution, either directly or through correspondent,
Modelo de base.
rather than the BAS model. We understand the differences, and to make it very clear about transparency, the transparency and the roles of each one of them will be very important.
Não seja
And if it's not,
desincentivando
it will
de base.
de-stimulate the participation of some agencies.
Pedro, eu acho que eu concordo com boa parte do que você
I agree with most of what you said. I think the market has welcomed this regulation because there was a kind of a anxiety for it, because the intention is very clear to have more strict rules so that you prevent
sérios, por assim dizer.
those who are not serious.
Muito claro de qual
It's very clear the intention of that document with all the adjustments that are being made. I think it will be very positive.
o nosso maior desafio
And the major challenge that we face in this regulation will be our greater opportunity,
trazer
which is to bring more the golden standard for our developments to this market. I'm not going to say our non-regulated market of banking as a service. We practice that in our bank to keep for the B2B service the same custody standard for development of software prevention to fraud to our B2C customers.
Perfeito. Marcelo e
Perfect. Marcelo and Carlos,
como é que você
how do you see the impact that regulation that is being discussed can generate on innovation, competitiveness, and the non-banking companies?
A primeira coisa são empresas
First of all, they're in the whether they're banking or non-banking institutions,
a regulação
the regulation is mandatory.
a partir do momento que
When the institution operates from their door outwards and they don't have a clear
você criar
vision of that, the only way for you to protect the financial market is to regulate the activities and to demand from financial institutions to work with the consumer clearly
regras de compliance
and that they follow the compliance rules that are demanded for the market. That has not happened,
mas
but
movimento para
there was a movement
sempre vem antes
onwards. Technology comes always before the rules, because you're not going to create a rule based on something that doesn't exist.
eu estou nesse mercado
I have been in this market for almost 10 years,
e
and
das coisas
many of the things that didn't exist in the environment of technology
por dentro e eram atividades atípicas
were atypical activities that used to be outside the environment and now they're inside.
a tecnologia
The technology comes
para simplesmente auxiliar modelos
to help business models.
então os modelos têm que permanecer
So the models have to keep.
modelos de negócio e você precisa ter eficiência
You have to have efficiency and cost reduction. This is the objective of banking as a service,
tecnologia dentro
for you to use technology within banking services and products, not to have mechanisms to facilitate procedures that are uncontrolled.
Isso tem sido feito.
That has been done
Muito, porque as próprias instituições
because the institutions
ferramentas adequadas, não porque
do not have appropriate tools, because the market don't have that.
as ferramentas de monitoramento,
Or there are some failures, some tools in monitoring,
mas você precisa criar a sua
but you need to do your internal orchestration and your solution to protect
sistema que você
yourself from that ecosystem where you're working. And this is the most difficult part for you to regulate, because it may be the difficulty of the central bank. You do this, you're going to do that. How can I fit everybody in the same package and to have a rule so that I can protect the market? I know because I've participated in the material that was sent to the central bank, and we used to talk about those who offered credit, those who offered accounts and payment, others working only with corporations, others only with individuals. And now you have innovations in all economical activities that converge,
foi conceito
because in Brazil,
que o banqueiro é milionário, né?
people say, well, the bankers are millionaires, which is a very old way of saying that. The banker is those who have money, not to have the banking license. Maybe they don't have the financial capacity to protect them from what they're doing, because the market converges to that. You don't carry money, you carry a wallet.
Que você conseguia
So the money that you could control, because it was only a paper that would enter only at the cashier, and it gets in anywhere and in any fashion. So my vision, the regulation came in a good time.
ela já vai estar atrasada porque 6 meses
When it starts, it's going to be late, because there will be something new in the 6 months from then. So the role of the BAS correspondent, of the banking correspondent, there is a similarity of activities. Some will converge, others won't, because they have to be segregated. But I'm very positive about that, and I think that the BC Plus agenda was incredible for the market, for everyone to move ahead. Now you put lots of things together, let's make a rule, and let's see what happens in the future. And in a couple of years, let's get together and check the rules again.
Bom, acho que aqui o primeiro ponto é:
The first point is the regulation came at a good moment, and it's good news, because the central banks try to regulate the market. And when you start having a relevant systemic risk, because you only have a risk in the chain when you have volume, because the market has grown, banking as a service has increased, so regulation is important. Why is it good news? Because we have a central bank that historically, since 2012, 13, is pro-innovation, competition, and made regulation a tool for that to happen. And Guilherme has given us some examples. So public consultation has illustrated that, because we had wonderful discussions, and I'm very excited about where we're heading, because we'll have standardization so that people who are not willing to meet the basic regulations for society, for holding other people's money. So this is great news.
já disse, inclusive, para o Guilherme e diretamente.
And I told Guilherme, and directly to the central bank, we are concerned. We have to see what the balance is. We will have compliance, risk, standardization will help me, will help Carlos. There are serious companies of banking as a service. There is a level playing field. I'm sorry for... So there is some parity for us to compete. And while we're doing things right, we hope that others will too. And there has to be incentives in payments. There is a two-sided market. You have to have payment in the chain for the investment to be done in technology. Things are not for free. Otherwise, we go back to times when there are fees, players who will not earn money in that market, and they will have other markets, and it's not worth investing in. So we have to have that balance for competition to happen, which is incentive in the chain. So our concern is to not cap it, but for that to exist safely so that we can keep investing in growth.
pelos exemplos
And I'm very excited about the examples that the central bank has given. I've been through the opening of digital banks,
drivando uma grande mudança no mercado que fez
the drivers that made changes in the market, and they made everybody reinvent themselves. They are customers, individuals, that don't change that for the evolution there was in BTG and other digital banks. So I think there will be another wave of competition. Regulation, it doesn't get in the way, it only helps us.
Muito bom.
You have to explain yourself.
Se não me engano,
There is a definition by Stanford that you recognize the disruption when it forces the status quo to create a new regulation. Then you have really broken with the mainstream that came before. So you have just seen that.
regular, porque
You need to regulate because we grew a lot. We have to regulate because you have established. And Guilherme, my question goes to you. How can you balance the need of security, prevention to systemic risk, stimulating financial inclusion in Brazil?
desenharam aí que você tem monte de
This is the challenge. This is the challenge, the regulator to find an optimum balance between this trade-off of increasing control and risk management and security, but at the same time not to kill the business and to keep stimulating them. We cannot place that in a Gen AI, this solution following some parameters, and that there will be these results to the central bank. What is the optimum balance?
Sabe, no ano que vem, na FEBRABAN Tech 2020,
Who knows, next year in FEBRABAN TECH 2026, we have that solution in AI, but then I may not be here to talk about regulation.
respondendo, eu acho que o papel na regulação de base
The role in the BAS regulation
principal, a gente foi para a gente subir um pouco a régua.
is for us to raise the bar on having control, governance, risk management that is standardized and minimum
Questão de responsabilidade.
for responsibilities. If there is a failure in this activity, who should be responsible or accountable? There is an accountability in private contracts, so we have to make it very clear. The institution regulated by the central banks that will take on several responsibilities, whether it's fraud or PLD. So we have that key factor. And I think
Na minha visão,
that, as far as I understand, when you do that, when you have a standardized procedure, minimum set of rules, we can stimulate the market for the market to grow organically, safely, with innovation, and the players to offer to society
conseguir estabelecer essa regra.
safely. So we can have a minimum standard, the path for a balance between innovation, competition will be natural. So this is the answer to finding the key factor for us. There will be some regulatory impact, but we hope it's not only a compliance that the institutions have to meet. There is a purpose. The matter of innovation and competition will be organic, and then society will benefit. The problem is when
Esse padrão mínimo de segurança,
we should not accept that we will do without the minimum standard and then there be affected by a systemic issue and society not trusting the model of the ecosystem of BAS for some reason, and we should come to a halt and to take a very drastic measure.
vai ter que estar
Everybody has to be authorized, has to be inspected by the central bank. So we want to raise the bar to stimulate that. So the natural path is challenging. It's not easy. This is what we talk a lot about that, but we don't do that alone. We talk openly to the market. We balance the impact. We assess the impact, the cost. That's how we work.
Ia falar alguma coisa, Pedro?
You are going to say something?
Vou passar, já que você pegou o microfone, eu vou passar.
So I'm going to ask you a question since you are holding the microphone. So regulation is not there yet. I would like to talk about today's practices. What is the strategy by Itaú to position themselves in the BaaS ecosystem, and what is the impact on the customer's experience?
O Itaú, como
I think Itaú is a bank that works in all industries, in society, individuals, corporations. We have a set of large customers where they have or will have a direct participation in the financial ecosystem.
pelos quais
They have reasons why
consegue investir
they will invest to offer a more complete solution or a more partial solution of financial services to their customers, distributors, and it's a myriad of links in the chain. And we see that as a positive trend. BaaS allows that. It's inevitable.
grandes sócios e parceiros
We are partners of our main customers in several tasks,
management
loan, cash management, and any type of activities
Brasil interno
in Brazil and internationally. And we understood that in our capacity to manage risk, custody,
de desenvolvimento mesmo de
security, development of technology, banking technology,
concorrência,
we have developed a great deal because of the competition. It would be nice, it would be a good alternative to offer and increase the level of partnerships and relationships
de tecnologia
in providing BaaS technology.
dos nossos maiores clientes.
We have a strategy focused on our largest clients, taking advantage of the moment, leveraging some competitive advantages as we see them with Itaú Unibank and a technology provider focusing on resilience, solidity, risk management, a bank with 100 years of history. This is our path forward at the moment. We're beginning the journey. Undoubtedly, there will be many challenges. It's a new game that we're learning to play.
E do ponto de vista de experiência do cliente, acho que
From the point of view of customer experience,
fazer isso de uma maneira que seja mais
we want to do it
possível,
as seamlessly as possible with an easy integration so that our customers can see this as another step taken together in a very deep relationship that we have, that it'll be a good experience.
Felipe, entrando na linha do uso
Along the lines of data usage
da tecnologia
and
sendo usada para potencializar
technology to enable
personalizados, como é que
and drive personalized services, how are things?
Eu até comentei ontem num
I was commenting yesterday in
Pactual.
one panel,
essência, né? A gente
BTG
nasce
is data-driven.
dados.
We
E-
were born in
BaaS,
a data era. For BaaS,
esse segmento ele vai surfar, vai se aproveitar.
we believe that the industry
Essa regulação
will
forte que a gente
take advantage, will go with the tide. And there's strong regulation and legislation, anti-fraud,
cada vez mais
etc.
importantes para
And data will be more and more important for systemic
de
protection.
clientes,
Customers' behavioral data through fintechs or direct participation. This will all work together for a more secure arrangement.
utilização de dados.
And this will involve data, use data.
Aproveitando do
But taking advantage of open finance, still in its infancy in Brazil. It's a great idea, but it's not
Ele
being
vai gerar
exploited fully yet. There will be more and more products which are more and more specialized
vão gerar novas ofertas, certamente.
and which will involve ourselves at BTG Pactual and, of course, everyone else.
A Swap está focada no
Swap
B2B de benefício.
is focusing on the B2B benefits market. What are the main demands and expectations of your clients?
Bom, eu acho que a gente foi aprendendo com a empresa como a gente se
The
posiciona.
company is learning how to position itself.
A consolidação é que a gente acredita que
Consolidation
no mercado B2B, benefícios,
is,
mas não só,
for
despesas
example, benefits are included in BAS, but there are other things like, for example, corporate travel. It's a company serving a company, therefore there's some co-creation.
e a gente
We're working there. Infrastructure, as far as we want to help them, is to embed that in their service. They have the right to serve. When I talk to prospects and customers, I say, what is your right to serve? Why is your user, why your customer base, your companies, why would they like to have financial services from that provider? Some customers
que estão
have software packages which are used in the daily life of the company, and it asks them, whatever financial service you have, I want you to help me. Could be credit, it could be PIX, it could be payment.
e cada tem o seu direito de
Each
servir.
one has their own right to serve.
Relacionamento.
Sometimes it's software, sometimes it's a
Trabalho
relationship.
com o Bank as a Service é dar
Our work with BAS is to give access, and a few years ago it was APIs, 6, 7 years ago.
em que pese que a APIs
Today, although BAS
necessária,
or APIs are still necessary, we see that the market's evolving. We
via app
provide
para segmentos específicos.
app access to white label products and so on. It's very specific. Needs are different.
O desafio no B2B
The challenge in B2B is
onda que está começando agora,
it's a wave that's beginning right now. We saw this in B2C,
muita mudança nos
in
últimos
the,
10 anos, mas o B2B
tax-paying individuals accounts, and it's starting with
está dentro
PJ.
de como eu
that is
consigo
to say,
posicionar,
legal
acelerar o
entities.
go-to-market.
So it's how can we accelerate their going to market? If we have the solidity and the soundness, then we can allow our customer to continue to focus on selling their software technologies and growing their basic
Cá entre nós é uma base B2B do
their database, the
basicamente
B2B
movimento
basis
da economia.
in Brazil, which is responsible for moving a lot of the economy.
De
So we are a provider which focuses on the market, and we are doing everything that's necessary so that customers don't have to be too concerned with the financial side. They have a partner who is providing infrastructure and allowing them to grow faster.
Legal. Carlos, a BMP
Now for you, Carlos,
o
BTG
modelo do básico
what is your BAS model?
no mercado de crédito.
How does it fit into your model of transforming embarked services?
A gente só não cuida
We work in all segments. We don't take care of investments, or perhaps we do, in terms of generating credit operations for capitals markets. So we do take part in the whole ecosystem, custody, management, issuing.
A história da BMP foi
BMP
relacionada à minha falta de dinheiro.
had to do with a lack of money that I had. The central bank said my social purpose was not just to give credit, but to sell services. So
Já que dinheiro eu não
I
tinha.
needed money, so I basically began to sell things like credit analysis and billings.
Uma cédula de
I said,
crédito bancário.
why don't you issue a CDB? That I will look like, for example, a notary public
2 milhões de operações de crédito.
office. Now I issue about 2 million in credit per month
Até manuais que existem
for digital and also manual. There are some processes that are not standardized.
Foi em querer entender.
We specialized in trying to understand existing journeys or buying and selling services that the traditionals did not offer. we had to build an infrastructure so as not to change the route. It had to work like this.
Vários absurdos.
We saw a number of crazy situations, people not in the financial market setting up mechanisms.
Pra gente, o
I very often thought they were lying or even omitting, withholding information.
encontra muitas coisas.
But in Brazil, you see a lot of different situations. We had to make that all fit into a single compliance rule with technology that would enable it. Some of them didn't really work out, but BNP had high parameterization mechanisms to
Papel do banco
attend any company's
eficiente.
journey.
Chegar no objetivo.
BAS, the idea is to be efficient and reduce transaction costs and help the money arrive faster. Investment funds are not worried
Bom
that
negócio.
whether it's a good business, not just another channel.
A jornada.
And the essential thing is to fit into the existing journey, not to change it, and allow parameters, a high level of parametering.
Capacidade
You
de
need the
crédito
capacity of credit analysis,
com a
which
expectativa
is
de risco.
compatible with the risk expectation, and you can control portfolios
Sessões de crédito, indústria,
and
para
endorsements of credit, etc., either for banking or capital market structures in a very transparent way. To load all that up in 2020,
porque eu pagava muito caro
I used to pay Itaú and Bradesco a great deal to
de boleto
do my transactions for me,
no meio de
bank bills and TED. So I started to issue electronic currency within the central bank, and we began transacting internally. And we were so efficient, we decided to sell our service. Everybody, even our coffee lady, has to buy and sell. We're not like a bank, which
ter receita.
every department cannot be loss-making. We all have to make profits. And since I had a lot of difficulty in the past in certain industries where I worked to make the right journeys, I managed to make journeys that would facilitate financial services in any kind of company, including companies linked to major banks that did not have the right technology. They did have it, perhaps, but they didn't have the capacity. They didn't have a short entrance roadmap. They were perhaps better than us, but not as fast as us with the same dynamic. Within banking, we entered this securitization market.
Custódia hoje de base do mercado.
We're the largest BAS custody, we're the largest credit operation in the market,
Essa visão.
and all of this has to do with their vision. Everyone who welcomes the startups and fintechs, etc., they have a growth view. They say, let's build a single business and sell to everyone. This would be great if the market was mature and everybody knew what they wanted. But each customer has a different view. Each customer has a different journey. And unless you pay attention to that, you create products that don't sell. I have two large-scale retailers operating with me. They sell the same product. One understands what we said, the other didn't want to. One produces 30 million in credit, the other 1.8. They're the same size. It's not because we know. There are so many people. I have been through, we've heard everything. 70% of the fintechs that operate banking credit didn't have a license, used our service. This means that we accumulated loads of information for designing winning journeys. During the pandemic, for example, we had a winning journey for offering credit to micro and small entrepreneurs
Recebíveis de cartões.
to established on the basis of credit card receivables. 3 pages, very few clicks. The compliance was in the back office. All the companies, Cielo, Reddy, Stone,
PG.
BTG, they sent credit portfolios to us. We could offer credit so that they could receive the government's emergency credits. We had this office, 6,000 square feet, that was all. We put more money out into the street than some other banks like Safra, the Caixa Econômica and Bradesco. It was only Banco do Brasil. We were second behind them in credit offering. It all has to do with a winning journey design
Tem o compliance.
because so that financial institution has the right compliance to give the information it needs, and the customer has the right journey, so that they don't lose focus on what they want. In 60 days, we put more than 500 million real on the street.
Comerciais atendidos.
30,000 was the ticket.
Muito bom.
That's amazing. Listening to you all speak, we're coming to an end. We have like just the last 10 minutes. You can be thinking of your closing statements.
Evidentemente tem
It's a scenario where there's room to grow.
o maior quarto da sala é o room for growth.
For example, the biggest room in the living room is room for growth.
É Lego, grande Lego, uma grande teia de conexão.
It's like a huge Lego model or a huge network or spider's web of connections with the capability to design models, etc. But in your final statements, market trends and technological trends, what's out there for people who are thinking of getting into this business? What's the most promising thing in Brazil over the next 5 years? Can anyone predict anything? We can try.
Você quer começar?
Posso tentar ajudar.
I could try and help. I think the first technological initiative for an immature market is to wake up early and go to sleep later, because then you have more challenges. You have more challenges than a predetermined structure.
Então, para você fazer isso,
So
dedicação.
there's a question of dedication. There are some institutions which have a roadmap and are interested. BTG, for example, and Itaú are examples. And there are some institutions that are not prepared. They need a third-party push.
AI que se fala.
AI, everyone's talking about AI. I'm not going into that right now. But the main secret, the key to everything in BAS is to understand who you're selling to, why you want to sell to them, and why they should purchase from you and not from the others.
Tecnologia embarcada, ela é
Embarked technology basically is like an engineering company. If you don't have the right design, or it could be architecture or decoration, they're going to, for example, put the wall up the same way, except there's not going to be a door in it. So you need to control and manage your journey design. Technology in itself solves nothing. And then the technological evolution,
que há 5 anos atrás era uma coisa, 3
5 years ago was one thing, 3 years ago was another thing. In 3 years' time, it's going to be a third thing yet. Everyone's going AI. Every panel has mentioned AI.
não passa de 2 ou 3% de qualquer instituição financeira o uso de AI.
But the use of AI is only 2 or 3% in a financial institution. The use doesn't bring efficiency necessarily. That's actually going to change the result in any way. A financial institution has to be profitable. It's not an NGO. It has to be profitable. Investments are carried out so that more positive results are made. You therefore need to bring something good to the market. You'll only sell your product if it's positive to the market. So get up earlier, go to bed later, and keep your eye on the new tools. Tools, not solutions, tools that are important in the market that'll help you to shorten certain pathways.
Pô, Carlão, eu ia falar que a gente estava quase.
Oh, I was going to say that it was almost 1 hour since we'd last mentioned AI, and you didn't talk about it. Or rather, you spoiled that for me. With
De inovação
the distribution of innovation for players,
que permite a distribuição
because there's this motor engine which allows the distribution of ideas, we will advance technologically in hyper-personalization.
desses novos entrantes,
New entrants,
turma que tem ideia diferente,
people with new ideas who know the end customer, they know their specialized and special desires, will be able to build systems and apps that are hyper-personalized using our platforms.
Além disso, o Carlão também já falou bastante sobre
Carlong mentioned this.
para banco como a gente.
For a bank like BTG,
Hoje em dia já existe uma pressão muito grande do
there's a lot of pressure today from VCs who've invested in growth, but they're interested in profit. Because of that, some of the offerings need to mature. This generates a lot of opportunities to us for credit and also for insurance in the near future.
balanço sheet muito robusto.
And then we have a very robust balance sheet, and this will bring in new business and new opportunities.
Marcelo,
Bom, acho que aqui
I'm thinking that it's worth reminding you that Brazil is in the vanguard in the financial system and payments.
onde a gente é muito bancarizado,
And it's highly banked thanks to recent efforts. And Brazil is highly computerized or digitized. Everyone has their smartphone.
então
So I mention these things because based on this assumption and looking at B2B, which is my focus,
a tendência de pagamentos end-to-end
the trend to end-to-end payments is very important for the next 5 years.
mas uma
Not just end-to-end, but also extreme conciliation or reconciliation, where you generate efficiency. Whether this uses AI, time will tell. I think because the investment is likely, a number of agents we can use. But I think there's a trend in B2B
jornadas integradas,
where integrated journeys, end-to-end payments,
despesas produtivas
go into productive expenses,
operacionais,
operational expenditures, corporate, which are not disrupted, but corporative level,
atrás, integradas,
these journeys are a little bit behind. I think this is where we'll see a trend
nova onda de
for a new wave of re-digitalization. Old systems need to be upgraded,
pagamento end
and a trend for end-to-end payment where there's conciliation, which will be automatic for companies producing extreme efficiency. That's for the next 5 years. I'm not a futurologist.
necessariamente comigo, mas aqui é uma
I'm not into futurology. It's a wild guess, let's say.
Wonderful, Pedro. It's hard to add with so many good points of view and not talking about all the logics and theory about AI. But something to add is a little bit more into the negative trend of increasing and greater technology, fraud, financial crime that challenge our system.
Acho que o outro lado disso é que
The other side of that is that security and soundness will become products and not compliance, and not something that we have to do because it's in the standards, but more as an attribute of a product that will be our customers will want in all segments in the industry. This is very important, and I think everybody here is considering that for the development of our businesses. Guilherme,
Exato.
closing remarks. I'm not going to talk about any specific technology or service, but our role as the regulatory agency is to allow our colleagues in the market to keep innovating, to bring new services to society with safety and standards, quality standards
Para que esse
and controls for this vast ecosystem is reliable and safe.
é o papel que a gente tem,
This is the role we play.
saia com uma regulamentação, né,
I hope we have a regulation that is appropriate,
que estimule, né, o mercado.
that will stimulate the market,
A adaptação também da regulação é
even if we don't get it right for the first time.
adaptando, flexibilizando
So we will adapt some things.
a expectativa, né, e continuar
This is what I expect,
trazer
and hope that BAS can transform the financial market in a positive way.
Bom, eu queria super agradecer você.
Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada aí pelo.
Thank you very much for the opening, for so many things. You've brought a round of applause to thank you for being here with us. Tomorrow we'll have many more panels. These subjects are very hot. Thank you. See you next time.